If you aspire to be a little different, there's only one way that you could have a chance of changing, and that's mindfulness. Sati. It's the only chance you have. It's the only chance I have, is remembering. We can't remember, can we? It's just astounding. As a therapist, let me just tell you, I could write a book. I mean, so you have a wonderful session with somebody. Oh my God, the light bulbs go off. And, oh, I'm right. It's just amazing. Next week, it's as if it never happened. Truly. It's as if it never happened. It's like a miracle. And I've sat with this for 25 years. And so people will say to me, over and over, have said over, how do you have so much patience? I tell the same story over and over and over, and it's always like it's new to you. Well, it is new to me, right? That has to do, again, with the inability to remember. So I've always said that, the good news about impermanence, the Buddhist teaching of anicca is that really the truth is every moment is new. And so it's fresh. And so there's a gap between this moment and the past moment. The bad news about it is that it erases everything you learned. It's true. Most of what we have learned and that we remember is just, stuff from many, many years ago. So I just wanted to share that with you as a kind of an introduction to the subject. Maybe this is close to my favorite subject. Sati, S-A-T-I. I would call Sati the mystery of Buddhism. The Buddha was very clear about so many, many things. And I should say Buddhism, whether it was, but, and so you can, even the most esoteric teachings, there's clarity to them. But I think that Sati is, if I sat here and said to you, I understand Sati, so I'm going to teach Sati to you now, okay? It would be really arrogant. It would be really arrogant. And because I think that it's, number one, well, let's set that up. So at the Forest Refuge the last time, there was a very brilliant teacher there who gave a talk on Sati, mindfulness. So I'm sitting there thinking, I'm listening, and thinking, that's not my understanding of mindfulness, right? It was, So, and he read the pertinent scriptures. And I had the thought at that time, and I mean, it was really quite good. And really, there were many things that this teacher said in Dharma talks that I really enjoyed. I think when you have someone, a teacher, talk about Sati, mindfulness, if they don't really begin by saying, if you can put it into words, you don't know what it is, they don't know what it is. If you're convinced that you know what Sati is, I'm convinced that you don't know what it is. Because I suspect that it is one of the true things in Buddhism that is beyond all words. You just can't capture it in words. And it's funny because everyone then just spends the rest of the time putting it into words. Everyone does. And so what is this that you're hearing from Victor? Blah, 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 words. So here's the beginning of the mystery, okay? So the Buddha says, this really is probably authentic, meaning that there are so many, the more you study and the more you read, you will find contradictions. I know that's politically incorrect, but it's absolutely true. You could argue that Mahayana, the whole course of Mahayana Buddhism is an attempt to correct things, and then that just creates more problems. But I think that probably everyone would agree that somebody who was an enlightened person said that when you meditate, you go and you sit under a tree, you find a secluded spot, and you sit under a tree, and then he said, place Sati before you. Now, that's okay. Okay, right? That's pretty simple. Just sit there in meditation and place sati before you. Okay, so where is it? I say, okay, let's see. Okay, I'm going to go right. Okay, here it is. I've got it. Here's my sati, and I'm going to place it before me, right? Well, what does that mean, place sati before you? I mean, it's an extraordinary thing because, okay, so we have, so our English scholars and maybe even Buddhist monks who came here trying to say, well, what are you going to call it? Place sati before you. So they came up with, they said, okay, we'll call it mindfulness. So now it's called mindfulness. Well, that made it a lot easier, didn't it? Right? So, because now it's an English word. So, okay, so now all you have to do to meditate is to sit in a secluded spot and place mindfulness before you. Okay, so what does that mean? Is it in front of you? You're going to put it here? Is that where it is? Or is that metaphorical? I mean, is it going to be just surrounding you? And then, in my brilliant language, and I was saying, what the hell is it? What is it? What is it? I would say that for sure, if I could tend to my energy for the rest of my life, if I could really do that, if I could aspire to do that, to tend to my energy rather than this extroverted pattern, which is, how old is an extroverted pattern? 50,000 years, right? I mean, everybody's pattern, your pattern is extraordinarily old. Your introverted pattern, your extroverted pattern. So I am presuming now, right, at this point in time, I'm going to go against the grain of psychological conditioning. But if I could do that, I could only do it with sati. I know that. I don't know what it is. But I mean, if I get up in the morning, tomorrow morning, and I tend to my energy, the only thing that will do that is sati. I mean, that is to say that some part of the mind that remembers to practice. And I think that the Buddha said, right, that the thing about, mindfulness is minding the mind. So, okay, so I'm going to just kind of tell you the way I think about it, and this is just uh, just one person's opinion. So in the practice of Buddhism, we have this thing called mindfulness practice, and mindfulness practice is not the same thing as sati. Sati means mindfulness, but mindfulness practice in the scriptures, it's divided into 5 aspects. So I'll just share those 5 aspects with you, and then we're going to come back to mindfulness. So the first part of the practice of mindfulness is one of my favorite teachers is Nisargadatta. Most of you know, I mean, he's just marvelous. He said that he had this one word that he loved. He just used it over and over and over. He said, you have to be earnest. You have to be earnest. You can't practice without earnestness. You just can't. Or sincerity. Now, does anybody think that you can get around that one? Right? Can you get around that one? Can I, tend to my energy if I don't have this earnest, sincere, right aspiration? So in Buddhism, the practice of mindfulness, you begin with earnestness or sincerity, or the word they use is diligence. Diligence. You bring diligence to the table. I'm not going to invite you to share with me the level of diligence or earnestness that you have. The second thing and this is the one where it gets really confused. The person who was given the Dharma talk was mushing these two together, and it's done quite frequently. So the practice of mindfulness is you bring earnestness, diligence, sincerity, that's a lovely word, to the moment. Well, of course, we're all shot out of the saddle, right? My shadow side has no interest in earnestness whatsoever. Frank, he's called. The second thing you bring is clear comprehension. Clear comprehension. That's a part of mindfulness practice. Clear comprehension. The word in in Pali is, it's so we use these words and then the eyes glaze over, right? Brad's already ready to leave. I can see it in his Sampajana. Sampajana. Doesn't that have a ring to it? Don't you like that? Sampajana. You could write a song about that. I've got a lot of Sampajana. Sampajana. Okay, so there's a very famous teacher. His name is Sumedho. Not to be confused with tomato. See, if I had not been an entertainer in New York City, our Sangha would have grown exponentially by now. He wrote a wonderful book called The Sound of Silence, but he always says sati/sampajana. He puts those two words together always in his teaching. I shouldn't say always, but I mean, he does. So in other words, sati and then slash clear comprehension, right? Now, clearly, they're not the same. I mean, the Buddha, it's very clear. I mean, in the things, you've got diligence and then you've got sampajana, or clear comprehension. So that's seeing something as it is. I'm walking down the street and I see someone coming on rollerblades or whatever. That happens all the time, right? Or bicycles. I see someone coming and they're not going to get out of my way. You know that. I mean, has anyone ever had the issue of someone coming at you in a bicycle in Long Beach? Good Lord. All right, so you look at that person and you see them, they're going to roll right over you. And then I have an expression that I'm not going to say right now. The blankety blank. So you get out of the way, don't you? That's sampajana, that's clear comprehension, right? I mean, you see that someone's going to hit you. So that's clear seeing. That's a part of the mindfulness practice. Okay. But if you really want to call it down, it's not mindfulness. I mean, it's not sati. See, that's the problem with saying I think that when you say mindfulness, you're talking about all these five things. Okay, bringing earnestness, bringing diligence to the practice, having clearly seeing, which is something that you're going to be developing in meditation, right? That's sensation. That's feeling. That's thinking. That's clear comprehension. Seeing things as they are. And then the third one is sati. He just says sati. Placing sati, so he just drops sati in the middle of those five. And then the other two are kind of like not really. They're like what you have to not have in order to have mindful sati. There are two things that you have to have, kids, for you to have any chance or me to have any chance at tending to my energy, right? What are they? Free from desire and free from discontent. So in other words, he's kind of suggesting if you're walking around filled with desire, I've got to learn how to tend to my energy. The truth is, I ain't going to get it. There's a very famous, a wonderful teacher, a Chan teacher, who says that to know the intimacy of the self, I think that's what he calls it. These people, they just make no sense. To know the intimacy of the practice, you have to let go of the desire for intimacy. Well, isn't that a pisser? So, in other words, even if like with sati, if I really want to have it, I've got to let go of the desire for it. And so in other words, if you're really filled with desire, which is a kind of a nice thing in many ways, but it's not going to help you with sati. And the last one is, and hello, let's talk about discontent. How much are you going to have sati if you're filled with discontent? So those are the things that you want three things present: earnestness, clear comprehension, and sati. And then you want two things absent: desire and discontent. So, So now we've got, so we know that sati is not earnestness. It's not earnestness or sincerity or diligence, and it's not even clear comprehension. You walk down the street and you see someone that's going to roll over you on a bicycle, and you get out of the way. So what is it? It's not those two. I mean, and then he lists that as the other thing. And so what I would say is, it's just seeing. It's just the act of seeing. And I mean, if you think about that, I mean, in other words, because obviously we're not talking about vision. I'm not talking about I see, right? Brian sitting there. Brian sees me sitting there. It's not physical, and it isn't I see. It's not I see, I hear, I feel, I smell, I touch. It's just seeing. Seeing. Something had to see the bicycle coming, right, before there could be the comprehension, the awareness. I better get out of the way of that damn bicycle. Sati is this pure seeing. So I thought this up a long time ago, and most of you have heard this, but it's just kind of as good as you can get. But sati is the camera in the department store that's just going like that. Right? Now, is it kind? Is a camera kind? No, it's just a camera. Is it calm? No, it's just a camera. See, part of the problem of our understanding is we make it a subject. Do you understand? We anthropomorphize it. Some people refer to sati as a loving mother. Some people refer to it as kind of feminine, right? But I mean in a lovely way, right? I mean, it's nurturing. And other people, Upandita, for instance, refer to it quite the opposite. You hear this a lot at Forest Refuge. It's masculine. Sati penetrates. And of course, penetration, as far as I know, is a basically masculine term, right? So, but that's actually anthropomorphizing it, isn't it? We're making it like us. So, right, so Melissa says, I was mindful, right? Or Victor says, I was mindful. Hello, it ain't possible. It's not possible. And that's why it's so hard to understand it, because how do you pull out me from the, right? I mean, the subject. So here's the thing. So I got back to introversion and extroversion. It was just a miracle. How did I get here? I mean, I said that 20 minutes ago, and now here we are. So I'm going to say to you that the extroverted practice of sati is where you're focused on the object. The body is the object, yes? Focused on the breath. That's focused on something, an object, right? That's the essence of what an extrovert is. We focus on the object. I mean, I can tell you, I watch you like a hawk. It's typically extroverted. And you introverts, you're not watching anything but your own selfish selves. Oh, no. According to Jung, the introvert is focused more on the subject part of experience. The extrovert is focused on the object part of the experience. It makes total sense that the poor fools that we are, we go to the Forest Refuge or wherever we go, and we learn mindfulness. So the extrovert is going to be watching the object. I'm sorry, and I can promise you. And what I will find, as I get quieter and quieter and more introspective, I start moving from watching the object to watching the subject, more watching back, trying to watch the mind. But, which I think somewhat it would be more of an introverted way of being. But the point is, sati is not the subject and it's not the object. That's what's hard. It's not the subject. So that's how an introvert could be so seduced and confused, right? Do you understand? I mean, an introvert could start thinking it is sati, is mindfulness. Sati is not, the Buddha said placing sati before you, right? It's something other than your personality. It's not your ego. It's not my ego. It's some amazing ability that the mind has to look at itself. And really, I think it may be just about the most amazing thing that is about us. I really suspect that's true. Um, I don't think concentration is the most amazing thing about us. Concentration is a wonderful thing. I mean, concentration, if you really learn it, if you really get good at it, Mark, it can give you tranquility. Mark, I like that. I confuse Mark and John all the time. I keep making him Mark Jonovich. If you develop, it's really, I've done that since the first time I met you. If you develop concentration, you can have fabulous tranquility, bliss, many, many wonderful things. But sati, which is kind of the door, the sati precedes clear comprehension. You can't have clear comprehension without that initial seeing, where there's no one there. There's just seeing. Our problem is, of course, we jump right in, right? We grasp the seeing the minute it happens, and then the ego is involved. So if you take a moment, this is what I think here. So I noticed during the sit just before, which was lovely. So there's a thought. Well, how am I going to start this talk? There was that thought, and then there's the awareness that I was thinking, and it disappeared. Thought will disappear in the presence of prajna, or awareness. It will disappear. It always does. So there was that thought, and it disappeared, and then there was another thought, and it disappeared. So the thought, whatever the thoughts were during the sit, they disappear, they vanish. If you are sitting and there's a space of no thought, that's where sati is. It's in the utter silence of the mind. That's where it really is. Because what's happening then, if you're not thinking, planning, all the stuff that we do. But you could just say that, in other words, it's like and this is not, I mean, this, that if you think of that as clouds in the mind, if they part, then there's just the sun shining. And that would be the light, I think, is sati. So when there's no feeling of I am watching my body, or I am watching the thoughts, when there is no I watching, then there's sati. It's there. Now, it's always there. Right. I mean, it's like, as long as you're awake, you can't be awake and not have sati. But the sense of me blocks out the experience of it. Do you understand? I mean, if I am the doer, if I see, I hear, if there's me, this ego part, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's why we can't really grasp what sati is, I think. Because, as I said, it's like there's hardly any way to describe it. Awareness, conscious awareness is a term that's used. So I wanted to read this little. This is from a Chan master, and he's describing what is called the function of the mind. And I read this many, many years ago, and when I read it, I thought, really, it comes close to capturing what sati is. So I wanted to read this with you, and, and then that's about all. I wanted to just say again, though, that I think if you can really suspend understanding what it is trying to put into words, if you can suspend that, and really, if someone says to you, well, so what did Victor say mindfulness is, or you say, well, he says it's kind of a mystery. That's what it is. It's kind of a mystery, and I aspired to catch it a little bit more than I have. But then on the other hand, how are you going to do that? So I remember saying, I'll just read this because I love this so much. In The Little Prince, the fox tells his friend, it's only with the heart that one can see rightly. Now, see, that's the problem with our English words. You see, we say see, and we immediately think, right? So he said, right, to the little prince, it's only with the heart that one can see rightly. I love that rightly, right? Sama, right understanding, right speech, rightly. See rightly. I think that's sati, seeing rightly. It's only with the heart. Do you notice that I'm repeating this? I swear. It's only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. So it's very hard for us. It's very hard because we trust we trust our senses, don't we, right? I mean, reality is what I see. Reality is what I hear. Reality is what I taste or touch or think. Thought is one of the six senses. So what do you do when someone says, that really none of that can see what is essential? Right? So in other words, it's really brilliant because it's really saying that there is something in you and me that can see rightly. But, you have to, you just have to step out of the driver's seat. As long as we're behind the behind the wheel, it's not so easy for us to allow sati to function. So if I can allow sati to function, you can ask me in a few weeks about how I'm tending to my energy. So here's what the old Chan master says. These are beautiful words. Wide and far-reaching, without limit, pure and clean, it emits light. Its spiritual potency is unobscured. Although it is bright, there are no objects of illumination. If it sees through everything, it sees that there are no objects. It can be said to be empty. Mm-hmm. It's empty. Now, how do you like that? Right? See, that's a problem, isn't it? Isn't that a problem? Well, I'm not empty. It is. So if you are filled up with you, there's not much room for it. It can be said to be empty, yet this emptiness is full of luminosity. It illumines in self-purity beyond the working of causes and conditions, apart from subject and object. Didn't I just say that? See, there you go. See that? Y'all think that I'm pretty stupid, but I had forgotten that he said that. Apart from subject and object. It is apart from subject and object. So as long as sati is a subject, as long as you have this illusion that it is a subject, the silent witness. See, the problem with silent witness is we make it witness as a person. So, so I've got this silent witness inside that's watching, right? It's a problem. The words so create, language creates the illusion of self. So I have a silent witness. When someone says, well, but the silent witness is empty. Well, I just think, oh, well, all right. But you see, but that's the problem. It is with because I love silent witness. I like that term. I use it all the time. But again, to anthropomorphize it, before you know it, you've made it a person. It's just a real silent person, right? It's like that's my most silent self. Is my sati. That's me, so purified, I'm hardly in existence. You see what the trap that is? See, I can pull myself down to I'm almost non-existent, but I'll spring forth tomorrow morning, right? And forget all about tending to energy. It's not, there's nothing in it. It's emptiness. I think this is so brilliant that he says this. Of course, he's dead, been dead a long time. Okay, its wondrousness and subtleties are ever present. Its luminosity is vast and open. Moreover, this is not something that can be conceived of as existence or non-existent. Sati is not existent, and it's not non-existent. Good luck with that. Nor can it be deliberate about with words and analogies. All right, so just forget that I said a word today, right? So, right, so he just has now destroyed me. Nor can it be deliberated about with words and analogies. And you know how much we fight that, right? Well, surely, if I think real hard, I can figure this damn thing out for sure, right? I mean, the mind relentlessly says, I mean, yeah, it's subtle. I get that, it's subtle. But I can still figure it out. No. The only way you figure it out is you stop trying to figure it out. It's the only way. This goes on and on. Right here, at this pivotal axle, opening the swinging gate and clearing the way, it is able to respond effortlessly to circumstances. The great function is free from hindrances. So, he's actually talking about the function of awareness, and I think he's nailed it just about as close as I've ever read. I mean, I would call that sati. So that's all.